opinions expressed by callers, guests, and hosts do not necessarily reflect those of the Black Talk Radio Network and Black Talk Media Project. Black Talk Radio is new black media for the new millennium.
Gold dinar would have had serious consequences for the world financial system, but may also have empowered the people of Africa, something black activists say the US wants to avoid at all costs.
We're slicing cake. We're slicing cake. We're slicing cake.
Say the US wants to avoid at all costs.
We're slicing cake.
Say the US wants to avoid at all costs.
We're slicing.
Gaddafi didn't give up. In the months leading up to the military intervention, he called on African and Muslim nations to join together to create this new currency that would rival the dollar and euro. They would sell oil and other resources around the world only for gold dinars. It's an idea that would shift the economic balance of the world. Countries' wealth would depend on how much gold they have, not how many dollars they trade. And Libya has 144 tons of gold.
Welcome everyone to Thando Radio Show, brought to you by Black Talk Radio Network. I'm your host, Dave from LA, coming to you live from FEMA Region number 6. And just want to thank you all. Today is February the 14th, 2017. It is a Tuesday. We have a live show for you today. Looking forward to having that show with you all, definitely. And at any time, if you'd like to get in on the conversation, give us a call, 866-510-9025, 866-510-9025. Then hit **. That will unmute you. We'll see you in queue, and definitely we'll get to you, to your question or comment. Very, very important. Okay, so let's jump into some of the things that are very important, the administrative things of the day. Everyone continue to support Black Talk Radio Network. And I just want to sincerely thank all of you that have been giving some of your financial energy, some of your means and energy so that this financial and monetary energy so that this network can continue to do what it needs to be doing. So, and just sincerely thank you for that. Regardless of how much you've given, thank you for you investing and ensuring that this network is here and all of the programs that are brought to you by Black Talk Radio Network are still on air. So continue to do that. If you'd like to make a monetary donation, you can do that at www.blacktalkradionetwork.com. That is the website for this network. And you'll see in the far right-hand margin the donation prompt that's there. It's in green and white, the holding hands that's there. Just hit that, and that will lead you into how you can give some of your financial energy so this network can continue to move and grow. Also, Black Talk Radio Network has established a social media network as well, known as BTR Community. You can go to www.btrcommunity.com, or from Black Talk Radio Network's website, you can see and prompt and get into BTR Community, which is a social media outlet where I only post, I no longer engage in Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, whatever, in all the other ones. I don't engage in that social media at all. But if you would like to become a part of BTR Community, you can easily do that for $24 a year. And one of the benefits is that you can have all of your social media, arrangements and activities, and you can do it from within a confine where you don't have to worry about you being adversely affected for your postings. Definitely very, very important. And you know that BTR Community will never sell your information to any bidder at all. So come on over and jump in the Black Talk Radio Network or BTR Community social media network. And, if you want to promote your business yourself or an organization or an event that you're having, you could do that right there from BTR Community. So definitely want to do that. Also, we are having a a wealth seminar on March the 25th of 2017 in Dallas. And if you would like to be a part of that, very easily, and this is actually put on by the Volt Group. If you'd like to be a part of that, and it's going to be talking about trust and foundations and setting up yourself, your private, entities for your family so that you can pass on some legacy financial wherewithal and ability, and you can actually store some of that energy for your family use. You can do that by coming to the Wealth Seminar that will be here in Dallas, March the 25th of 2017, and it's going to be from 1 p.m. Central Standard Time to 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I will be one of the presenters, and I know some of the presenters that are going to be there. Great information. It's $125 for single tickets, and for couples is $100 for the couples. So definitely be a part of that. We posted it inside of Thando Radio Show, and if you are interested in doing that, you can definitely reach out to us in Thando Radio Show, or you can send. I will post it. How will we? You can. I'm going to repost it for if you're interested in that. You can definitely text 951-790-8330 with an email, and I will forward the invitation to you so that you can be a part of this. It's the Family Business and Private Wealth Seminar that's going to be happening here in Dallas on March the 25th of 2017. So come on down to Dallas. We'll be able to have some very private conversations, and you will learn a lot. And believe me, the information that you will be given, it's far more than what the overall admission fee is, of $100 per couple and $125 for individuals. So, okay. All right, so that's where we're going to be. Looking forward to seeing you there. So come on by. Also, if you're interested in acquiring some real money, you could do that by going to Prosperity Mint. That's PROSPERITYMINT. Check out what they have in inventory there. Then you can email wolf6pack1@gmail.com so that someone can get in contact with you to make sure that you are purchasing correctly, okay? And just to explain to you the overall process of acquiring real money, okay? So that being said, just want to say let's jump into what's in the news. What am I forgetting? No, I'm forgetting something, but let's jump into what's in the news. First article. This one came from my man Raj sent this, and this comes from Reuters. The president in the Philippines targeting Philippine children in bid to widen drug war. And this is, check out this article. And this goes right along with what's going on. This type of stuff is all a part of the overall. When you look at some of how these laws come about, the very institutions that create these laws actually funds the activities and to criminalize activities so that their overall laws will be fully funded in return, and so that there's a profit to it all. So this stuff is really getting sick, and it's out of hand, and it's been out of hand for a very, very long time. So check out that article. My man Raz put that in. He says Duarte is sociopathic. He learned well from the colonizers of his country how to treat his own people. So true. So true. Next article. This one comes from Sputnik News. Confirmed. U.S. used depleted uranium shells against Daesh in Syria. And that came from Sputnik News. Check out that article. And this article goes pretty much like the one that Ross had posted. And this comes from ClarionProject.org. Georgetown professor condones rape and slavery under Shia law. Excuse me. Sorry about that. And this is something that, my commentary on this is, I'm not going to say nothing, but this right here is some you can imagine what the rest of what I was saying. And what it says, No Flip has Georgetown University, after one of its professors declared it is not immoral for one human to own another. Jonathan Brown, a Georgetown professor of Islamic studies, sent shockwaves through the academic and the secular world for a lecture he gave, essentially condoning Islamic slavery and non-consensual sex. So that article is there. Check it out. I don't know. I'm going to play this at some time because it was kind of crazy. But see, this is the fascist state of where the world really is and how it's expanding that overall statehood in it. And there was one of the things in this that was very, very important that was said that I would love for you to hear, and we're going to do that because it makes a very valid point as to this overall fascist program of subjugation and enslavement of the global population. This is, something we all definitely should look at. So next article, this one came from Rise as well, from Bloomberg. U.S. said mulling global currency policy to target Japan. Celebrity figurehead Donald Trump's administration is said to be considering a new approach to labeling China as a currency manipulator without directly confronting the nation. That ain't going to work. And believe me, they've already, because the intention is already there, and this is going to continue to destabilize the overall relations globally, because this is going to be as we've been talking about for a while, the war that will engage itself against the people. So check out that article. Next article, this one comes from my man Jambone, sent this to us. Thanks, Jam. And this one comes from Military Times. Report cites increased Chinese-Russian military activity in the annual report on the military power throughout the world. Cites China and Russia activities are rising. Rising threats to the Western power. So check out that article. Next one. This one comes from the South China Morning Post. Oh, it was the same one that Rise had put. So it was the same thing. So check out that article. Next article, very, very important one. This one comes from Sovereign Man. Second largest stockpile of gold leaves the United States. About 20 years ago, this is what the writer said, about 20 years ago when I was still a cadet at West Point, my economics professor organized a trip to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Part of that trip that I remember was when we toured the Fed's high security, man, I don't know what's wrong with me today, high security vault, 80 feet below street level, beneath the bank's main office building. And he was saying that had a lot of gold there, but all of that gold was not the United States. It was other actual foreign countries. So we'll definitely take a look at this as well on Financial Friday. Very, very important. Next article. This one comes from Business Insider. Russia secretly deploys nuclear cruise missiles that violate a treaty with the United States. Russia just issued a serious challenge to the United States with the deployment of treaty-violating nuclear-capable cruise missiles that could pose a serious threat to Western Europe. The New York Times reported the missiles violate the Intermediate Range Nuclear Force Treaty, or the INF, because they have a range of between 620 and 3,420 miles. And let me see. And fire from a ground-based launcher, enabling Russia to hit Europe's capital from their homeland. So this whole war paradigm, ladies and gentlemen, is picking up so much. So next, we have today's show is going to be the Table of Preparedness. We're going to be looking at water in its important role, very, very important. So we're going to on Tuesday, we're going to do the Table of Preparedness because we really want you to be as prepared as you possibly can be for what's coming down the pipe. So let's definitely do that. But before we do that, there's a couple of things that I want to take a look at. What's in the news just before? Do I have time? What I do want to do is I want to go back to, and it's very important because this is all a part of this whole global paradigm that's going on. I want to go back to the article from the Georgetown professor that condoned rape and slavery under Sharia law. And I think it's very, very important because this is nothing new, but it's something that is going to continue to expand, and its act of furtherance is going to be much more brutal in the future. And I think it's very, very important for us to know that. So let's just take 15 minutes before we get into the show where we just take a look at some of these things so that you can make some of your own decisions about where things are going and why this is so important for you to be prepared. Georgetown professor condones rape and slavery under Sharia law. No Flip hasn't sued as Georgetown University after one of its professors declared it's not immoral for one human being to own another. And here's let's just take a look at some of this article. A Georgetown professor of Islamic studies sent shockwaves through the academic and secular world for a lecture he gave essentially condoning Islamic slavery and non-consensual sex. That's academics' way of saying rape. That would have been the opening statement, the opening sentence to comments on such a lecture if we lived in normal times, which we don't. The lecture in question actually created the very little stir neither at the university where he is employed nor anywhere else. Move this down. Or anywhere else. Deconstruction of the professor's astounding speech in a lecture, which you can actually is right there, at the International Institute of Islamic Thought. And in parentheses, they said it's a Muslim Brotherhood linked group. And it is subsequently question and answer followed his talk. The Georgetown Islamic professor, Jonathan Brown, converted to Islam, declares, it is not immoral for one human being to own another. He waxed politics with the poets with about the great life of a slave under Sharia law versus slavery under white men in the South. Let me move this down. Without actually defining that life, perhaps the Clarendon Project has done more, and he should have gotten his information from a girl from Iraq. Brown said that slavery itself is not problematic since the prophet of God, Muhammad, had slaves. There is no denying that. He was, move this down. Was he or are you more morally mature than the prophet of God? No, you're not. That was his quote. Rather, the moral evil is extreme from the moral evil of extreme forms of deprivations of rights and move this down even further. Sorry, everyone. And extreme forms of control of extreme forms of exploitation. I do not think it is morally evil to own someone because we have lots of people around us and around the world who are owned by people. Brown mentioned, move this down again. Brown mentioned examples such as employers and employees taking out a mortgage and even his own marriage since his wife held certain rights over him. Somehow the facts of one engaged in these activities from his or her own free will has the ability to terminate such relationship when over the professor's head or he chooses to ignore them. Brown tells his audience Islamic slavery was fundamentally better than slavery that was practiced in the United States since it was not racially motivated. How this makes it better is beyond my moral compass, but one can simply look at history of the Arab slave trade of Africans to dispute this. Although many whites are enslaved by Arab Muslims as well, and an estimated 20 to 40 million black Africans were enslaved between 650 and 1900s by Arab slave traders. Many of these slaves were forced into servitude. Let me move this down. That guarded and had vast harems of female slaves belonging to the rulers. The black Muslim slave trade still exists today. For example, in Sudan, black people suffer from discrimination in Saudi Arabia, while slavery was only abolished in 1962. The racial slur Ebreed means a slave in Arabic and is still widely used to describe black people. The professor then trouts out an academic moral realism in two twisted points and said in the saying, there is no such thing as slavery as a category or as a category that exists through space and time historically. Slavery cannot just be treated as a moral evil in one of itself, because slavery does not mean anything. As for the permissibility of sex with a slave, Brown said, consent isn't necessary for lawful sex, and goes on to dig at the overrated, move this down, concept of autonomy over one's own body, saying that our society is obsessed with the ideal of autonomy and consent. When asked if having non-consensual sex with an enslaved woman or a woman is wrong, Brown asked if there is really any difference between a girl sold in a slave market in Istanbul and a poor baker's daughter who marries a poor baker's son out of lack of other options. The girls owned in Istanbul, by the way, might be treated. The girl's owner, by the way, might be treating her badly, or may treat her incredibly well. That the baker's son might treat her well, or he might treat her horribly. The difference between these two people is not that big. We see this as erroneous because we're obsessed with the idea of autonomy and consent. Would be my first response. It is not a solution to the problem. I think it does not help frame it. I think it does help frame it. Frame it or not. So check out this article, and what we're going to do is probably play some of the things that this professor said, and this comes from Georgetown University. And I'm going to tell you why Georgetown is relevant, because this is one of the Jesuit schools, one of the leading Jesuit schools in this country. And if you can see what's really happening here, ladies and gentlemen, this is how fascism continues to extend its overall hand to have more of a role in enslaving people from in my opinion, they're going to move into a more authoritative form of enslavement. And how do you do that? It's incremental. You take incremental steps to get there. So this is just, to me, it was nuts. I'm not surprised. This is really where we are globally, and it's nothing new. But what it is that it's going to rear its ugly face once again in the same forms and fashions of the demonstrous past, but is going to be far, in my opinion, far worse. And then I think we really need to listen to this and play some of this so that you can hear, particularly, it's a couple of parts, but there was one part that I really want you to hear, because it gives you the agenda of the globalists and what they really do have in plan. I know you here at Thando Radio Show, you're very familiar with it, but I think it's it's something so that you can see why this substantiates and validates why you need to be as prepared as you possibly can in all forms and in all fashions, okay? So that you can protect yourself, dutifully protect yourself, all right? So we'll play that at some point in some time, probably. I don't want to interrupt today. Let me see, how much did it go into? So we'll play it. We'll play some of it tomorrow. Definitely we'll play some of it tomorrow. I think Brother Braggs will be on too. So we need to really, really hear this. So this comes from Georgetown, School of the Jesuits. So that's what we have there. So we're getting ready to get into today's show. But of course, if you'd like to jump in on the conversation, if you have any questions or comments at any time, give us a call, 866-510-9025, 866-510-9025. Then hit *, C-U, and Q, and we will definitely bring you up. Hopefully, I didn't post it. Hopefully, if for everyone in Northern California that is in the area where Orville Dam could affect you. And last I saw that they saying that people will not be able to return to their homes for about 2 weeks there as they try to shore up the integrity of that dam. It's overall to ensure that its structural integrity is in place, which I don't think that they're going to be able to do, in my opinion, because this is nothing new. They've been told about this, the compromised structure of this dam for a very, very long time. They didn't do anything about it, and depending on hopefully that the weather that they're going to get in Northern California, the rain and everything will not compromise that dam, because if it does, my goodness, the overall effect that's going to have on people and what that really means. And I'm not surprised that I think that there's more to this than what is being said. I do actually think that this is a part of an agenda, the conspiracy agenda. There's no such thing as conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy agenda. So definitely check out that and research some of that on your own. Be familiar, and so that you'll have some idea of what's going on. So with that being said, that kind of fits right into our overall show today. We're going to take a look at, on the table of preparedness, water. And the table of preparedness, just so we can set this out with you all, the table of preparedness, this is just something that I call it the table of preparedness. It's just, I want you to imagine a table. It has 4 legs and a top, okay? In order for your preparations to actually augment each other or to support each other, or for you to have some form of a degree, some measure of preparedness for man-made and natural things, and just, in preparing in general. What I did was I just broke it down into a table and the 4 legs and the countertop. And the 4 legs are water, food, protection, and shelter. And then the tabletop will be energy. And it's very, very important. That's the table of preparedness: water, food, shelter, protection, and energy. And it's very, very important that when you establish some form of preparedness, that you look at that whole table of preparedness in your overall building for yourself in that manner, because once you kind of hit those 5 categories, you now have a real measure of protection for yourself and your family and our overall communities. And so it's very important that we know that and have that. I mean, one of the things about the table of preparedness is that you really want to try to touch on the complete table of preparedness, because any compromise on one of the tables, just like a table that one leg is shorter than the other, it becomes completely unstable. So you definitely want to have all of the table of preparedness working in conjunction and augmenting each other, so that it could give you the best measure of protection for yourself and for your family. And that's very, very important. It's not where you just focus on one thing. There's a lot of people that just focus on certain aspects of preparing. They'll only focus, let's say, on protection, which, they'll go out and they'll buy all of the measures and create all of the measures to protect themselves, but they become woefully short in food and in water and in shelter and in energy, so that once something happens, they won't have the same protection as someone that has a full table of preparedness to have, because they did not build a table of preparedness. They just built one area. Some people will just do food, and I hear people all the time, saying, well, the only thing that's going to matter, and they always use a Mad Max situation for their overall when you talk to people about preparedness. And one thing I want to do is that please don't, I think it's very, very important for us to be very realistic about things. Hollywood is Hollywood. Yes, Hollywood gives you some indications of things, but see, one of the things that hurts us and harms us, and this is where the conspiracy theory really comes in, is that Hollywood really, really does as much harm as they do any form of relative good to people when it comes to situational awareness, because they dramatize everything. They take it and they put it so that it's entertainment, okay? And it's not about being entertained. It's about you being in a position of advantage when things go wrong, no matter where you are in history, no matter where you are in eternity, what moment in eternity that you're in. Things always do happen. Some happen naturally, but most of the things happen unnaturally that are actually by the will of man. So in actuality, you could say that it's natural, and it's, so all things happen naturally. Even if man is forcing some, that's a natural process, because every person has their own free will, or mankind has his own free will. That's a natural. So everything that happens is natural. But some things don't have the same influence, or aren't created, or aren't happening because of man's free will. Okay? So that's very, very important. And I think it's something that we really have to look at when we start to prepare, is that you don't want to you don't want to uneven yourself. You don't want to have an uneven table. You want to actually try to focus on all 5 parts of the table equally. But, of course, some things have a little more importance, and so this is why we're going to start with water, because water is, very, very important. You can only go 3 days without water before you have, before you physically make that great transformation. That's the overall physical limit that you can do. So very, very important when it comes to the table of preparedness. Look at it as that and kind of build it out from there. Like I said, there's people that only focus on, and I was saying just before elaborating on this, people say, well, if a Mad Max situation happens, the most important thing that you're going to need is food. Food will matter above and beyond anything else. Well, food has its place. It definitely has its place. Water has its place. Shelter has its place, protection has its place, and energy has its place. Because if all of you have is food, how are you going to be able to protect that food? What shelter will you be able to give to that food so that it will not be exposed to the elements, or where it won't spoil? How are you going to protect yourself and your food? What energy are you going to have to be able to cook that food, or just be able to preserve that food? Is going to take a form of energy in order for you to do that, or actually even the overall know-how to do it. So it's very, very important that we, look at this thing from the table of preparedness and not just one particular spot. It's the same thing as, what if the only thing you focus on is energy, and you don't focus on protection, or you don't focus on shelter. And shelter a lot of times is the one that really gets overlooked a whole lot. No, excuse me. The one that gets overlooked the most is energy. Then would be shelter, in my opinion. If you don't have any shelter to shelter yourself, you won't be able to maintain or hold on to that food that you have for very long. And shelter protects you, and it protects your family, and it actually protects you in so many different ways, from the elements, from sickness, from intrusion, from so many things. The elements, as I was saying, the rain, the wind, all of these things are so vitally important. So you have to look at this from the table of preparedness. So let me just really quickly. So let's jump into, excuse me, everyone. Okay, so it went out on me. Okay, we're good to go. Okay, so what we want to do is look at the table of preparedness, and today we're going to look at water. And water is extremely, extremely important, as you already know. So let's take a look at, and one of the things with getting water is that a lot of people know that the importance of water, but there's a couple of things that we need to talk about on the table of preparedness of water. Water is, as we said, is vitally important to have on the table of preparedness, because your overall physical body needs water in order to maintain its abilities to be able to function, to maintain its health. One of the things about water that a lot of people overlook is that when you come to water, there's also water that you have to put aside and store for, depending on how big your family is and who's all in your overall preparedness group or family or in your community, whoever you're storing water for. One of the things that people tend to overlook a lot is that you need to have a store of water just in case someone gets sick. You need to be able to put some water off on the side for people getting ill, or some form of trauma that they've gone through, okay? Illness or trauma. You have to have water put aside for that individual or for your group. Very, very important, because what a lot of people do is they just take water and say, oh, I just need to, buy bottles of water. Man, it's far, far beyond that, okay? Far, far beyond that. And one of the things that I want to first start with you all is that you have to have a store of water for when people are sick, okay, especially with the illness. Having fresh potable water available to them will make the difference, especially if you're in a prolonged situation where you're not going to be able to meet or be able to acquire or be able to get the industrialized common assistance from society that we're used to now. Okay? Very, very, very important. It goes beyond. There has to be the water that you consume, and there has to some water that you consume. You have to have a store of water that you can consume daily, and you also have to have a store of water that you can use for when people are sick. Okay, because you have to have a good, clean water source for those individuals, and prepare for that when you have that opportunity. Because God forbid, let's take this dam for an example. If this dam breaks in California, Northern California, the people that are downstream of that dam, here's one of the bad effects about that, is that it is going to compromise the water source. That fresh water is now going to be extremely tainted water, because think about it, its overall movement is going to destroy gas stations, and the gas may be compromised. Any factories, chemical plants, those places can be compromised. Just think of Fukushima. When water's destructive force is so strong, it totally compromised the overall nuclear power plant, and it compromised the water, because the radioactive isotopes now were actually put into the water source. And it's going to compromise groundwater. It compromises so many things. Well, it won't compromise groundwater as much, but that nuclear radioactive isotopes will actually do that. Okay? So it's very, very important. And it's, water is something that you can never, ever, ever underestimate. Okay? So I'm going to take a look at that today. So I definitely wanted to say that. Now, one of the things about water, and, you know, you've heard that you can go 3 days without water. There's the saying that you can go 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food. And that's the overall the priority. That's how it's the priorities of when it comes to survival things, is that you need air, water, and then food, and so in order to maintain your overall physical wherewithal and to be in a strong or healthy or capable physical source. I mean, to have a existence. Excuse me. Sorry about that. So let's jump into today's show. Very, very important. One of the things I want to really start with is that there's different things that we need to talk about with water. Okay, we need to have a very comprehensive plan for storing fresh water, for collecting water, for purifying water, and for finding water. Okay? And that's very, very important. So it's for storing water, collecting water, purifying water, and finding water. Those are the four things that you really need to focus on when it comes to water. Okay? Just buying bottled water, having a couple of cases of bottled water is not the end with all. That's just one portion of it, okay? And it's storing of water, collecting water, purifying water is probably more important and is just as equally important as them all, because purifying water and, of course, finding water is a must. No matter where you are throughout this country, regardless of where you are throughout this country, you need to survey where there is retrievable water sources that you could realistically get to in a time of despair. But you don't need 1, 2, 3. You need multiple. You need multiple sources of water, because you'll never know exactly how the water supply and the water source will be compromised. Okay? If you're in the, regardless of where you are, you could be in the desert. There is still water in the desert. You just have to know how to find it. Okay? You can also collect water in the desert. You definitely can collect water in the desert daily. A lot of people talk about the desert as being a major, major problem, which it is. But if you know how to navigate it, you'll be fine. One thing that you can create water. That's how you find water. You can actually create water. How do you do that? You need to know these things. Very, very, very important. So water, from that standpoint, is storing of water, collecting water, purifying water, and being able to find water is critical. Every person that's listening to Thando Radio Show, regardless of where you are, if you're in the country, I'm pretty sure that you know of water sources. But you need to know multiple water sources. And when we were giving the preparedness class, one of the things that I instructed is some of our participants in the preparedness classes was this, is that you need to find water sources on the route that you're going to use to your route of escape. If you're in the cities, so what you need to do, let's say you're someone that's in the city, you need to appropriately find routes of trying to get an exit strategy or exiting out of the cities. If you needed to do that, your whole route needs to be mapped out by way of water sources, first and foremost. First and foremost. Because you can only go 3 days without water. Very, very important. So these are just some of the things that we're going to talk about in today's show. Okay, so now I would definitely suggest to you all, if you've never seen anyone make the great transformation, by way of dehydration. It is not a pretty sight at all, ladies and gentlemen. It is not a pretty sight at all, okay? And when it comes to water sources, there are also things that you need to be able to add to your water source. And this is very, very critical for you to know. One of the things about dehydration, it is the same as really what you're basically seeing with someone is you're seeing someone have Ebola-type symptoms, and the body reacts the same way that the body reacts. Ebola just is mimicking the body's going through dehydration shutdown. And this is not anything that is pleasant at all, ladies and gentlemen. It's a very, very painful and a very unpleasant thing to experience, people making a great transformation by dehydration. Because what happens is that the overall major organs start to fail and they collapse. And when they do, they no longer function. You have major organ failure, and they start to bleed out. And so it is not anything that you want to endure at all. This is one of the things that's very, very important. You don't want your family to be going through this because we didn't prepare. So just so you know, these are some of the reasons why we actually prepare. So let's jump into some of the things that I think are relative. And, of course, at any time, if you'd like to get in on the conversation, just give us a call, 866-510-9025, 866-510-9025, and hit ***. Okay, now, so when we come to water, first of all, yes, everyone should be buying cases of water. That's a no-brainer. And I would say that one of the things that you want to do is that also you want to protect those cases of water. You want to make sure that you keep them out of sunlight, and then you want to actually mark them, too, as to how long you've had them, because we never waste water at all. In any, you try not to do that. You shouldn't do that in any form or fashion, but especially every molecule of water is important in a situation where you have now had to go into your overall preparedness situation. You are in a crisis, or you had to go start to use some of your overall tools in your preparedness. The things that you've been preparing for have now come to fruition, to where you need to start to actively have your daily life surrounded around the things that you prepared for. So if you're in a preparedness situation, from earthquake to war to I don't care if it's a pandemic that's happening and you can't, you're in a compromise where everyday life is no longer where the stability of everyday life is compromised, and you're in a yo-yo effect. Yo-yo, just so you know, whenever I say yo-yo, I mean you're on your own. When it's just you and your family, or just you and you're on your own and there is no assistance that's coming to you, and you have to now go into your overall, you have to go to the table of preparedness to maintain your everyday way of life, quality of life, and standard of living. Very, very important. So when you do that, there's not one molecule of water that you ever waste. And you want to separate some of the old water, even if you have dirty water. Dirty water is still usable, extremely usable. What I mean by that, dirty water can be used from the standpoint of if you're going to use that to actually wash things that you are not going to actually ingest. Okay, there is use for non-potable water. Some of that you can use depending on how dirty it is and what's classified as it being dirty. If it's got chemicals and different things in it, that's compromised water. Okay, there is still use for compromised water, and I'm going to help you with that in a second. But even with dirty water, you can use that, but where it's dirty as far as it comes from somewhere you can't really just, you don't want to purify that and everything else. Well, you can use that in your garden as long as it is not something that's toxic. You don't want to run that through your overall process of filtering, because the more you filter, you're going to have to replace your filtering materials, okay? So all water is necessary. So you have to know that you waste nothing. So if you're getting water from like a source that is not potable for you to drink and ingest, well, maybe you could use that for something else, okay? So you can use it in your garden. You can use it to clean certain things where water will be of assistance, and that's what you're going to need for there, all right? Now, some of the things which are potable water is used for daily consumption and for people that are ill and for people that have wounds or abrasions or cuts or have injuries, okay? You never use dirty water for those situations, all right? You have to use clean water for that. So just want to definitely make that point to you. Now, compromised water. Let's say you know that some water has been, it doesn't have a scent or anything else, but it is, that it's been compromised by chemicals or whatever. Well, depending on what that is, that could still, in so many ways, just use your imagination. You can use that as a defense mechanism. If you just think about it. And what I mean by that, I'm going to just be blunt. Let's say you have some people that want to compromise your overall family, and they want to steal certain things from you. And you know that they are those type of individuals, and they're a threat to you. And one of the things is that compromised water is something that you can use. You know where to go with that, all right? But make sure you know, all right? And this is why even in a down situation, if someone gives you water, you may still want to purify that, because you don't know what that person's intentions are, especially from people you don't know. And these are things that really don't get talked about much, is that you got to protect yourself in all forms and all facets, all right? So that was there. Now, some of the things that that I think are very, very important that we're going to jump into. And, of course, if you have any questions or comments at any time, definitely jump in. This is a show that you can jump in at any time, especially for this show. 866-510-9025, 866-510-9025. Like I said, all water is usable, is good water. It's just what are you going to use it for? As I was just saying, sometimes you want to use compromised water as one of your measures of security and protection. If so necessary, it's better to have an option with it than not at all. And trust me, it's worked before in the past and everything else. So this is something that you definitely want to employ. So just want to say that. Okay, so we are all very familiar with buying water, and every time that there's a major hurricane or a inclement weather as far as blizzards and everything, all of the water at the stores all get bought out and everything else, okay? Which can be expected. That's normal. But make sure you have your own storable water. And we want to talk about some of those things. And then you mark your water and you know how long you've had it, because bottled water it can go from being potable to non-potable, okay? Or at least you will have to treat it. When we're in a down situation where we don't have the everyday comforts, where you don't have the ability to boil water and everything else, this is where, or you're in a situation, let's say we are in a situation where the power has been knocked out for a very long period of time, okay? All water after that, regardless of if you don't know where that water source came from, for yourself from before things went awry and have had some measure of accountability on its overall exposure to anything, and you know that it has not been compromised, any water source that you come into contact after that, you have to treat it as dirty water that you need to purify. Purifying of water is one of the most important things that is always, always overlooked when it comes to water. When it comes to water, people just think that they could buy a couple of cases of it and they're cool. No. It's far, far beyond that. Before you even buy cases of water, one of the most important things is to have an appropriate and an efficient filtration system for that water, for any water source, okay? Especially when you talk about something happening for a prolonged period. There's been, regional wars throughout the world. You take over in, the Ukraine now, or in Afghanistan, or in Sarajevo in the 90s and everything else. Their water sources, all of their water sources were completely compromised. And it wasn't something that was just going to end. You look at like in Syria right now. Their water sources is completely compromised in different, in different forms and fashions. They can no longer trust the water supply because they don't know if that water supply has been compromised because they're actively engaged in a war. You never know if somebody's going to poison the water. Okay? So just because you turn the faucet on and the water is running, you don't know where that overall source of water has been since you're in this down situation. I also would definitely say if you can get the appropriate, there's some relatively cheap ways that you can check the quality of water. You can't always, some of the things that they have now is not going to register a lot of pollutants and things of that nature or what's in it. But there is some small, even the small things help. So there are some things where you could test the water to see what some of the things are in it. So, and that gives you some idea. But if you're like in, case in point, if you're in a war zone, you have to treat all water sources as compromised as the general population. You definitely do. And you want to be mindful of the overall health of people around you that are drinking water from the traditional measures in a down situation. Why is that? Because they'll give you an indication, their overall health, they'll give you an indication of if the water is compromised or not. Because compromising water is something that is a strategical battle plan. So depending on your situation, depending on what the overall event is, you really need to be aware of the possibilities. Just like an earthquake or the power grid going down. That water source, just because that water is on, if it hasn't been turned off, you don't know the filtration, if the filtration system that was being used to purify that water and make it potable is even working. So you can't trust it. So these are some of the things with the table of preparedness and water that we have to think about in before things happen, so that you'll know what to do when things happen. That's one of the keys to preparedness. You always have to prepare before things happen and try to see things before they come so that you'll know what to do once they arrive. So situational preparedness, situational thinking, situational critical thinking, looking at history, looking at the possibilities of things that what could happen and what you may be faced and challenged with can only help you. It will not harm you at all. Not harm you at all. I think we have, let me check to make sure we don't have a caller in queue. Yes, we do. Yeah, we do. We had a caller, area code 803. You're on Thando Radio Show. What is your question or comment? And what's your name and where you're calling from, and what is your question and comment?
Hey, Dave. This is Sister Erin.
Hey, Sister Davis. How are you? It's so good to talk to you.
Good. Yeah. My other half is, I know he has the radio show tomorrow, and I do know he will be on tomorrow. I don't have the topic matter, but he is sleeping because he'll be driving late night tonight. But I did want to add to the water information that you're giving, which is excellent. Everything is excellent. I hope everybody has taken notes. But one thing I would suggest is that people on this call need to take a camping trip. You need to go out where you are limited with resources so you can give an understanding of what limited resources really are. You know,
right
now, just sitting here listening, you have like no clue. Because my husband and I live in this truck, and guess what? It is no running faucet in here. So we have to be very knowledgeable about the food that's in here, and especially the water. So there's 4 people that need water. Well, there's 4 entities that need water in this truck. My husband and I, and we have 2 dogs, and they drink a lot of water. So we have to be very conscious. Sometimes we recycle the ice water that's in our coolers, like for the dogs. And like
right.
you got to recycle things. You got to use things. Sometimes I'll use that water, boil it a little bit for other, for maybe washing dishes, because, I cook in here. So I have to have extra water to cook with, and I'm not going to use our fresh drinking water to do our little dishes and stuff. So like you said, you have to be very conscious. But I would suggest everybody to go on some type of big or little camping trip. For the weekend, rent a truck, rent a tent or an RV of some type, a small one, big one, or camp out in your car and just see what you need over 3 or 4 days. Because I'm telling y'all, these listeners, Dave is on point. I mean, he is absolutely on point. You have no idea. And we went on a camping trip. You remember about 2 years ago?
Sure do. With the grand trip.
With our grandchildren.
Yeah.
And even though we were in a campsite, even though we were on the road, the RV only holds so much
Hold on.
water.
1 second, Sister Davis. Hold on. We got to get ready to go to a commercial break because what you're talking about is just too important. If you have 1 or 2 minutes, let's just go to a commercial break and we'll come right back to you, okay?
No problem.
Okay.
No problem. Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, everyone, we're getting ready to go to a commercial break. If you'd like to get in on the conversation, if you have anything to add to the conversation, because this is something that we collectively share because it's so important, give us a call, 866-510-9025, 866-510-9025, then hit star. We'll see you in queue, and we'll bring you up. You're listening to Thando Radio Show, brought to you by Black Talk Radio Network. We're going to come back to the table of preparedness, and we're going to look at water, how important and some of the things that we need to be doing. You're listening to Thando Radio Show. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break.
Black Talk Radio since 2008, providing new black media for the masses.
Okay, welcome back, everyone, to Thando Radio Show, brought to you by Black Talk Radio Network. At any time you'd like to get on a conversation, give us a call, 866-510-9025, 866-510-9025, then hit star. We're talking about water on the table of preparedness, the importance of it, and some of the things that we want to do is have you to think about in establishing your table of preparedness with water being one of the legs. And Sister Davis is here talking about some of the things that she and Brother Davis and the Davis team and family do when it comes to water. Some great information. So we're going to go back to Sister Davis. Sister Davis?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay,
yeah,
okay, let's pick up.
When we did our camping trip with the kids in the RV, there were 7 of us, 5 kids and 2 adults, and it's a whole new world, brother. It's a whole new world. Now, granted, we were above the curve because we're used to that. We're used to being in a truck. It seems as though we have been preparing for whatever is coming down the pike for years, kind of subliminally. Believe me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, between living in a truck, between living in Southern California, we had to conserve water in the 80s when we lived there. So we have been very fortunate that we are conscious of these things. But I tell you what, when we went on that RV trip, you see exactly what you need, you know exactly what you don't have, and you know exactly how to plan for the future. because it is no joke. Each child drinks a certain amount. You got to have, like you said, dirty water to do the dishes, and not dirty water, but the water that you're not drinking for the dishes, and it's just so much that you have to be conscious of, and it's just phenomenal. I mean, everybody needs to go out of their comfort zone at home and get on the road and do a camping trip. That's all I can say. Just do a camping trip, big, little, small, in your car, rent somebody else's tent, because you can, when you're out there in the wilderness or not in the comforts of your own home, you will see exactly what you need. And I'm grateful that you're giving so many great tips, but nobody is just really going to understand until you're out there. And even, it doesn't really take the grid to go down or some great disaster to happen, but just wind or rain or, like you said, a flood or a dam burst. Everybody is going to be compromised to everything that they do, and you have to be prepared. One of the things that we do now when we are at home or around the house, all those little empty water bottles, fill them up with tap water. Fill them up with tap water. And I put a tea on top of the bottle, and I store that, so I know that is drinking water. That's tap water as opposed to my bottled water, the bottled water that's still in the wrapper that's in the case. So we do both sets of water, because when you're in a situation you're not going to want to use your expensive drinking water for flushing the toilet or washing your feet or washing your face. So you have to be conscious of that. And like you said, if people are sick, they have to have the freshest water. If people are need to clean out your wounds or sores or anything like that, they have to have the freshest drinking water. At the end of the summer, I took your advice and I bought some of that chalk from that was on clearance at the end of summer at Walmart. I also bought the little strips that tell you the quality of water. You know, the little strips that you put in you put in the little test strips. I bought some of them. They were on clearance at the end of summer, and they were expensive. They were on clearance for $10. The regular price was like $19 or something. And so that's something to kind of watch out for. And it's no joke. I'm glad you're doing this show because, like I said, in this truck, we see what we use and we see what's valuable, and it's a whole new world.
Yeah. See, you guys are. Yeah, and since you guys are always, been, preparing and aware. And that's really what it is. When you become aware of possibilities, you start to realize something, and you depend on yourself. And that is really the key to being prepared, is that you're willing to be sovereign. And Sister Davis is absolutely right. Until you actually get out and you don't use the things that we've been made accustomed to, use the conveniency of modern life to where you actually have to acquire different things, you won't appreciate it. You will not appreciate it. But it's something that I think you need to do so that you can see some of the things and actually start to work out that part of your overall cognitive ability, your thinking on how to respond to everything. If you don't work that stuff out now, when things go awry, you will lose your mind because of the stress that will be compounded from the situation itself, and then our bodies start to shut down from fear. And you don't need to be fearful of anything. Get out and actually take Sister Davis' advice. Get out, get into, where you're not using the everyday conveniences. Even if you can't go somewhere, be creative in how you do this, okay? But see what you would do, especially now, because now you can make your mistakes, and then you could possibly be able to rebound from those mistakes. Once things go awry, it's game on all the time, and you'll realize something. Outside has never been so hot, and has never been so cold. and when things get real. So, yeah, Sister Davis is so true with this, and it's great advice, and it's something that we definitely should be looking at. And this is not only that, you need to, as Brother Davis always said, you need to survey your equipment. And part of survey, making sure that you know how to use it. And seeing because, they'll tell you that some tool is able to do this or do that. But in actuality, its usefulness goes way beyond what it was designed for once you start to use it, because your mind is you're a master builder. And so you need to really engage that and actually challenge that and make all the mistakes now that you possibly can make, so that you will minimize those things in the time of necessity. There's a saying that's in the military, you sweat in peace so you don't bleed in war. That's, I just wanted to use that, but the point is, work this stuff out now and sweat. Do the things that are uncomfortable. Then you won't bleed at the time of war. So, man, Sister Davis, as always, great point. Anything else you wanted to add, Sister Davis?
Well, I wanted to add that right now everybody on this call should have a plastic or glass pitcher by their sink in the kitchen and in the bathroom. Because whenever you, for example, if you're going to wash dishes in the sink, when you turn your hot water on, you waste about almost a gallon of water till your water turns hot. That's just going down. That's just turning the spigot on, and that water's going down the drain. What we have done, and I have my dad doing it, I have everybody in my little circle doing it. Just get one of those pitchers. I have a dollar store pitcher. It's rather large, and when I turn that water, that spigot on to wash dishes or whatever, I need hot water, I let the cold water run into the pitcher. And as soon as it starts getting hot, I turn it, to do the wash the dishwater, and I take that pitcher and put it on the side of the sink. And then if I have to water plants, if I have to make rice or whatever, I use that water, that water that's in that container for something else, to feed the dogs, whatever, because that's regular water. I do the same thing in the bathroom. I just put a pitcher right beside it, or a small cup or a glass, and then take that water and put it into the pitcher, because sometimes your bathroom sink is too small, because that's regular water. Or you could take that water that's in that pitcher and fill up a couple of those little water bottles that you put in your recycle bin, put the tea on the top, that goes in the storage of your table water, your tap water. And right there, it's just saving water. I mean, we started doing that when we were in Southern California in the 80s, because we were in a drought. It didn't make sense to just let that water go down the drain. And to believe me, when there's when it's bad weather, you think the electricity's going to go out. You have an inkling, bad snowstorm. You see, when we were living in central Pennsylvania, we were all weather people now, because now you could see the weather coming up the south, and it's called a nor'easter, and we see that coming up the south, from the south on the states, hitting central Pennsylvania. We know we're going to get a really heavy snowstorm, which is using 12 inches or more. Right away, we go and fill up the bathtub. If you got 2 or 3 bathtubs in your house, you fill them all up. I mean, if you don't use the water, you can recycle it, but people living in central Pennsylvania where it snowed 22 inches in a WAP last year, we're not trying to get caught like that, because the water system could go out, the electricity could go out, the wind could make the electricity go out. You don't have no water. So right away, I'm old school, and we at least fill up the bathtub. If you just take a couple of pots. Everybody who drinks liquor, collect some of them liquor bottles that you paying money for, those really nice liquor wine bottles. Hey, take the wrapper off, fill that with water, because those are quality glass containers. And if I can use glass as opposed to plastic, I will. But now, of course, if you got to move that, if you got to put it in the car and move it, it's a little heavy. But those quality glass bottles, people drinking Hennessy and this and that. When them bottles is done, instead of collecting them on the shelf, go ahead and put water in that. You know what I mean? Because that's a glass container. That's bottled water. That's old school bottled water. And it's just worth to do that. You know, if you have old mason jars, collect the water. If you don't ever need it, that's fine. Water will last. You know, if you feel as though it's old water, you can always water the plants, whatever. But people need to, Dave, I'm telling you, people need to understand that what we have here today is not going to be here in the future. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not talking doom and gloom, but I'm just saying the quality of what we have now might not last forever, and chances are it's not. The grid's going to go down, the electricity, something's going to go awry here eventually, and we need to be prepared. This is, you know, be prepared. And like you said about using your equipment, I'm glad you mentioned that because my husband's old school and he was military, and there's a little razor type thing that he has on his key ring. I don't know what it's called, Dave. You might know the name, but you can use this little doohickey thing.
That's a C-rat. That's a C-rat opener.
Okay, yeah, you could open up cans. I can't do it. I need to practice to do it, but he does it very easily. Well, we saw some at some store on sale, and we bought some. We bought like 3 or 4 of them because he recognizes that's how you open up a bottle. You can open a bottle or a can. Or you can just use it to cut. If you got to cut a piece of rope, it's a razor sharp so you can cut. And he bought one. We bought a couple of them. And about a week ago, he didn't have his keys with him. And I said, well, here, let's use this. We'd open up a can. I said, here, let's use these little things that we just bought. And he went to use it. He said, uh-oh. I said, what? He said, this quality is not what this. These are the cheap ones. And he could open up the container, but it wasn't as sharp or the quality. He kind of felt like it was going to bend. And so I'm glad you mentioned about checking your equipment because that gave us a heads up that some of the stuff that you buy is not the quality of what you already have. Because people are making things rather cheap. It looked just like it should work, but he had a heck of a time because the quality of the metal that was made for this little device was not the same. So that gives you
that's so true, Sister Day, and you'll find that with a lot of things. With a whole bunch of things, and that's so true. So you know, I mean, Sister Davis just, you know, as always, Sister Davis dropped some real good bombs in for us all, and she's absolutely right. You know, one of the things that in California, and I pretty much do it. If anything ever goes awry, you got to designate somebody's job is to fill up the bathtubs because that could be as much as, depending on where you are, 75 to 80 gallons of water.
That's right.
So you know, in California with earthquakes, that was, you know, someone's job, and there's different things that you can do. And so, yeah, Sister Davis, spot on. Sister Davis, well, definitely, and anytime you wanted to jump back in, just let me know, and we'll talk to Brother Davis tomorrow on Wise Wednesday, and so we'll just have Wise Wednesday, and we'll put it up there. But, yeah, this water thing is very, very, very important. So I want to keep this moving.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Just
Yeah.
unmute yourself if you want it, when you can. If you see something that you want. I mean, okay. Thank you, Sister Davis, as always. The gem of the queen. The gem of the queens. All right, so now, one thing I want to talk about, very important, is that some of the things with water that's critical is that water is extremely heavy. It's extremely dense. And if you're not familiar with and you're not used to carrying water and things of that nature, you have to look at everything that you're going to do. If let's say you're in the country and you need to go somewhere for whatever reason, and let's use different hypothetical situations. Let's say some things that went awry in the country, okay? And you need to go from one part of where you are out in the country. You need to go down yonder, and yonder is kind of out there, all right, is a ways, all right? And you know that there's people and everything else that you may come into contact with or and because I'm going to tell you, when it comes to a preparedness situation, you can't get sick, injured, in trouble. You cannot, those things you cannot You cannot do. You can't get sick. You can't get injured. You can't get in trouble. Okay? That's the key. You got to really, really protect yourself. So you're going to go, let's say, a couple of miles across the way, all right? And in that, you're going to arm yourself. And if some of you have never carried, and you need to have sufficient arms. What I mean by you need to have a rifle and everything else that goes along with to protect yourself and everything else. This is just a hypothetical situation. And so what you're going to do is you're going to have a backpack and everything else and everything. As you start to put the things that you're going to need in there, you're going to notice something. It's going to start to get extremely, extremely heavy. And if you're not used to and your body is not used to actually doing those things, one of the things that's going to happen to you is since your body is so new to it, your body is going to be stressed by that situation. I know for Scotty, I know for Brother Davis, I know for myself, and I know for everybody here that's ever been in the military in any form of battle field occupation or anything else. Your first, what is called a hump, your first hump that you went on, oh, my God, you didn't even know that your body could hurt that way. And then your feet blister and everything else. So one of the things is that you want to always lighten your load. And water is extremely heavy because of its density. One of the things that you want to do is you want to have an efficient filtration system. So we're going to talk about that and how you could do that. And you want to know where your overall water sources are and have as much information about your water sources. If you notice something that we talk about here on Thando Radio Show, it's very, very important for you to know your surroundings, where you are. They have to know so much because they're on the road. So they have to know where different things are from that overall capacity because at any time, at any moment, at anywhere, things could go awry where they may have to, their overall plans may be altered by the situation that has now come up, arrived. Okay? So same thing with you. Where you are is critical for you to be able to adapt to the conditions in the environment that will be unexpectedly or upon you, all right? So one of the things that's very, very critical is just as important as having stored water, and there's a proper way to store water. We'll talk about that, too, in time, because I don't think we'll have time. But one of the things that I want to emphasize now is filtration of water. You have to have, but one of the reasons why you want to have, you carry some water with you, but that's not the water that you drink, okay? Your filtration system that you have is what you use to drink. Reason, the water that you carry, most people that are not aware, case in point, you know, if they're out in the country, let's say you got the country person and you got the family member that was down and they're from the city. And then they want to go like 5 miles away. It's 5 miles one way, 5 miles another way. That's going to be a long hike. That's going to be a hike. That's going to take, and that city person not going to understand that going around the corner in the car and all that other stuff, you don't have that convenience anymore. So now, let's say you got the country boy and the city boy with him, and the country boy is going to have to take care of the city boy. And he's going to give him water. So he gives him a canteen of water. I guarantee you, if that city person is not listening to this show or is not properly instructed by their country cousin or friend, the water I'm giving you now is not for you to drink. Just randomly, just to pick up, and that be the first water that you need to drink, because that'll defeat the whole purpose. And by time, what you'll find is that something, you know, by time you get somewhere, you'll find out that all of their water is gone. And God knows what could happen on your journey to somewhere else. You can encounter a problem where you have to stop and stay for a day or two. Now that person doesn't have any water. So one of the things that you want to do is that you got to have the proper filtration system, because filtration systems allow you to use water that you're not storing. And I always call it free water. Very, very important. You want to always try to maximize your overall capabilities. You want to have force multipliers. A properly filtration system will be a force multiplier. Everyone take this down. At least you need to have a life straw. At least a life straw. You can find a life straw. It's life and straw for like $20. One of the things in your table of preparedness for water has to include a life straw. No person here that's listening to this show should be without a life straw. If you are, you're doing yourself and your family a disservice. You need to strategically place those life straws. You need to have them in your vehicle, in your home, and you always know where they are and how to use them. That is a medium grade filtration system that's extremely light. Weight is going to matter it's going to be key to everything, ladies and gentlemen, especially in a prolonged down situation. The thing about a prolonged down situation is that people are going to get fit real quick. They're either going to get fit or they ain't going to be there. Okay? But in the medium term situation, your overall physical abilities and your physical fitness is really going to take a toll. So if you're going to go somewhere, you're going to take let's say a canteen of water, but you only drink that water in absolute emergency. Okay? And you also go by routes by way of that you know where water is so that you can get to the water. All right? And you need to have a proper filtration system that cuts down on your weight of what you need to carry. Because I'm going to tell you all, just do this. Pick up a gallon of water. Put it in the backpack, and walk around a city block. For those of you that are in the cities, walk around a city block. Give you an idea of the weight of water. You're going to know quickly, especially if it's new to you, wow, this stuff is heavy. And it's not just a glass of water, but see, we're so used to not having to bear the brunt of shouldering water. It's always in our faucets. It may not always be in that. You may not have that opportunity. You may not no longer have that luxury. So prepare for it now. Sweat now so you won't bleed later. Okay? So one of the things that you can do to mitigate that is know where water sources are and have a proper filtration system. And they are always relatively, and you can get some great filtration systems that are way, their overall weight capacity is in the grams. In the ounces. Very, very light. Very light. You need to know how to do that. So I'm talking about a couple of them. How much time we got? Okay. The light straw is a must. Is an absolute must. You got to have that. And then we're also going to talk about a couple of, and I'm going to give you some suggestions of how you can make your own filtration system with just a bottle of water.
Dave, I have a question.
Small bottle of water. And I'll tell you about that. Yeah, go ahead, Scotty.
Can you adopt a pool filtration system for drinking water in an emergency situation?
A pool, yes. Yes, you can.
Thank you.
Yes. And we also want to, yes, Scotty is absolutely, yes, you can. The components that go along with it, and we're going to talk about that as well, Scotty. I'm glad you said the components that go along with it and your pool filtration system and everything else. Yes, definitely can. And then we're going to talk about showing you how to make your own gravity fed, a pocket gravity fed, just as like a small bottle of water, how you can make that into an effective, efficient water filtration system so that you don't have to carry water. But you always need to know where water is. And if you don't know where water is, you don't have access to water, then you got to carry it. So listen, everyone, we're getting ready to go to a commercial break. At any time you'd like to get in on the conversation, don't hesitate. Give us a call, 866-510-9025, 866-510-9025. You're listening to Thando Radio Show, brought to you by Black Talk Radio Network. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break.
Black Talk Radio Network is made possible in part with help from the Black Talk Media Project, a North Carolina-based nonprofit engaged in the production and distribution of independent digital black media. Find out more by going to blacktalkradionetwork.com or blacktalkmediaproject.org and look for the menu tab, Crowdfunding Black Media. Black Talk Media Project, helping to provide you with new black media for the new millennium. You are tuned in to Black Talk Radio, new black media for the new millennium.
Okay, welcome back, everyone, to Thando Radio Show, brought to you by Black Talk Radio Network. If you'd like to get in on the conversation, don't hesitate. Give us a call, 866-510-9025, 866-510-9025. And just hit **. We'll see you in queue. And we're talking about water on the table of preparedness, the importance of it. And you all know the importance of water. You know, our over 85% of our body is made up of water, and our overall use and need of water and our sustainability is 100%. We definitely need it. But water is used for so many things. We can't maintain our overall hygiene, an effective hygiene, without water and everything else. So, you know, the things that we need water for is very, very, very important. And there's different grades of water, as we've been talking about. So just before we went into the commercial break, I want to talk about a couple of filtration systems, some that you can buy, some that you can make, and how to do that. Very, very important thing, so that you'll know and have that opportunity in case if you ever need it. Now you know that you can use it, and you don't have to worry about that. And believe me, that will become very, very important. And just how you use this all, it could be critical to many. Your family is just so important. And now we don't see those things because we don't have to contend with those things. And you think about in today's society, it's modernized us into a very real disadvantage. Because the thing about the fragile nature of the grid, just how fragile the grid, as rigid and as knowledgeable, because we're so dependent upon something that is so fragile. And at some point and at some time, don't know if it's going to be today, whenever, doesn't really matter when, but when it does happen, there are going to be people around that didn't prepare for it to happen, and those people will be adversely affected. And we just hope that it won't be any of us, by way of, and not by gambling and hoping it doesn't happen, but by being prepared in case it does happen. We at least can respond to it in a more appropriate way that gives us leverage, and so that we can mitigate the overall problem. Because this fragile system, they name it fragile because at some point and at some times it's going to be tested and it's going to fail the test. Its fragile nature is going to break. And when it does, you want to be ready. So let's get into some things that you could purchase in way of filtration systems that can aid you, and then some things that you can actually make because I always like to give things that are cost efficient for people to cover the whole economic standing and everything else, the scale. So very, very important. So one, very good, cheap It's a filtration system that is light to carry with you. Is the life straw. Got to have that in your overall preparedness, in your bug out bags, in your preparedness bags, and your stay home, and your everything else. You got to have some life straws. I firmly believe that every person in your home should have at least 2 life straws, if at all possible. But if you can only get one for the family, that's cool. That does not listen. You work within your strengths. Okay, so get 1 life straw. Another one that I know that is highly efficient, and one that that I would actually have no problems and qualms drinking water sources that have been compromised. And you got to think about the water sources, some of the waterborne diseases and illnesses and pathogens that are in water, and what they'll do to your overall body, from cholera to polio to, you know, when you talk about drinking septic water, you're exposing your body, and it will definitely happen to you, and it will happen to you quickly, and it will speed up your dehydration process, and it's going to be a very, very painful process, and this is why water security, water sources, and having a safe water source is so important. I mean, typhoid, hepatitis, all kinds of viruses, and cholera, and you know, which in cholera has had has killed many people after the grid has gone down or been in a compromised situation. And it's very easy in how you can approach it, or there's ways that in some cheap ways that you can deal with that before it happens, so you don't have to worry about it. And that's what this show is all about. All right, so let's take a look. We said the life straw. Another one, one of the filtration systems that I think is a must for every family, and this is one that, in my opinion, this is one of the things that would be with me, and I would carry, and I would definitely have, and I have full faith and full confidence in it, for my overall experience with it and knowing what its history is and what it does. Is something called a Catadyn combo, and that's CATADYN. It's one of Catadyn makes some of the best water filtration systems in the world. They are expensive. They can be quite expensive depending on what you're going to get. The Catadyn combo is one that I highly suggest for you all to look into. If I had one filtration system, if I needed to go somewhere and I needed to carry a filtration system, the one that I would pick up first would be a Catadyn. And I'm not promoting, I'm just because of what it can do. You will be able to drink water off of that's in the gutter in the streets with a Catadyn, and be able to turn dysenteric water into potable drinking water. That's what you want. So a Catadyn. And this thing is so effective, and it tells us, you know, one of the good things about how effective the Catadyn is that during the Haitian earthquake, when they triggered that earthquake in Haiti, and the overall water was compromised there, they had a cholera outbreak that was killing people. And the thing that actually stopped the cholera outbreak and saved many people's lives was that they had silver-impregnated water filtration systems that were brought into ceramic silver-impregnated water filtration systems is what stopped cholera. And they were able to take non-potable water from off of the street and run it through that ceramic silver-impregnated filter, and it was now potable drinking water. This is the technology and the what Catadyn has in this combo. It has a ceramic filter that's silver impregnated. So that will kill and pretty much deal with pretty much everything outside of radioactive isotopes. It won't deal with any Fukushima water. Just so you know. And you need to know where you always are. It ain't funny because we all dealing with that, and that is going to be a part of this continued depopulation. So a Catadyn is a must if you can acquire it. And I'm going to give you the once again, it's Catadyn. Katadyn combo. They also make different. I would also suggest if you live somewhere, not on the West Coast, but if you're in some other ocean water source, Katadyn may be something that you want to in your preparedness bag or a bag of tricks that you may want to have as a desalination water source. And that's what it will do. It desalinates water, turns ocean water, and takes the salt out so that it can be potable drinking water. For people that are boaters, they know about Katadyns, but many of them don't know about the small portable Katadyns that you could have. So very, very important. Katadyn is a must, if you can. Okay, so just before we get out of here, wow, time flies. Also, what I want to do real quickly then, and we're going to come back to this subject again because we need to. It's just so important. When it comes to your water source, and this was for pure, can't remember the sister's name on intent in BTR. Pure Pell wanted to know about the importance of water. So you want to have, your water, but also one of the things, and this is, we did the show for you, one of the things you want to do is make your own filter. And you could do this from just, let's say, a small water bottle, which you would do, and I want to show you how you make a water filtration system. There's different ways that you can do it. What you want to do is you want to cut the water bottle to where 3/4 of it are, you cut 1/4 of it off of the top, go from the top 1/4 of the way down and cut it across, okay? So you cut it out. And this is a real small one. What you're going to do when you do that, to make your water filtration system inside of with the cap upside down, okay? And what you're going to do is you're going to poke a hole in the cap itself. Keep the cap on. You can poke a hole in it. I'm going to give you a couple of different ways in which you can make a filter real quick. And you're going to cut it, and then you're going to turn it upside down to where the cap is inside of the bottle of water, okay? Because what we're going to do is we're going to make a gravity-fed water filter. So what you do is you're going to cut off the 1/4 of the first top of it from the actual neck of the bottle 1/4 way down. Keep the cap on. Then what you're going to do is once you cut it off and you sever the two, now what you want to do is you want to cut it to where you don't compromise it to where you have now like 2 cups, okay, 2 cups. What you're going to do is the cup with the top on it, you're going to put things inside of it, okay, and this is what you're going to put into it. Where you screw the bottle on and the threading where you actually put it into your mouth to drink, you're going to put some absorption fabric, cotton, or cheesecloth, something of that nature. You stuff that inside of there, just to where it is where to encompass where you would put your lips to drink. So you would just fill that part from there. Then what you're going to do is take charcoal. This is why charcoal, if you have fireplaces, some of the stuff I use with my ash from my charcoal is I use some of the charcoal for my water filtration and the ashes for my gardening. You're going to take the charcoal, okay? Not the charcoal that has lighter fluid in it. Don't grab the barbecue bag of matchlight charcoal, okay? Because that charcoal's been compromised. You want charcoal that's not compromised without any chemicals. You put one layer, about a layer of that, and that layer should be about maybe 3 inches thick, okay? Then you want to get sand. Put it on top. You put the cotton or the cheesecloth. Then you put the charcoal on top of the cheesecloth. Then you put the sand on top of the charcoal. Then you're going to put gravel. Okay, there's a difference between sand and gravel. If you don't have any sand where you are, it would behoove you to order some sand. You can get some fish stores. You can get it from there. You can get it from different places. Find where you can find some sand, clean sand, uncompromised sand, okay? Then you're going to get gravel. Gravel has little rocks in it, all right? And so you're going to layer it, the cotton or cheesecloth, the charcoal, then a layer of sand about 2 to 3 inches thick. Then you're going to put the gravel in on top of that. Then on top of that, you're going to put small rocks, okay? Now, this is what happened. Now you have a full-fledged working gravity system. Remember I said you cut a hole in the top. In the top of you put the top on the bottle, and you right in the middle you put a hole in there. Why is that? Because what you're going to do is you're going to turn that top. You're going to put that top inside of that bottle of water that you now have, the 3/4 of the water bottle that's there. That's going to be your water reservoir where your clean water is going to drip into, and then that will be the water that you'll be able to drink. What you're going to do is you're going to take the water that you need to filter, and you're going to pour it slowly inside of the where the rocks are. And you're just going to kind of let that fill up and then let it work its way down. Don't have any real force on it. Just let it slowly, at a very slow pace of water going into it, and just, work it around so it goes all through it. And you just keep putting that until where you can see that water fills up just above the rocks or where you have it. And then you just let that filter down through, and then you continue that process until you have enough water for you to drink. You have just made yourself and one of the things, you could also add grass to it, and you would add the grass right between the sand and the charcoal. Fresh, clean grass that that's clean also. There's different, a bunch of different things that we'll talk about that you can do. That is how you can make a very effective, cheap filtration system. You need charcoal. You need sand. At minimum, you need like a cheesecloth or cotton, or you can even use a fabric. You need that fabric, cheesecloth, cotton, or you can even, what's really good is you can also use a coffee filter, okay? Coffee filter is really, really good for that. So then you have the charcoal, the sand, the gravel, and the rock, and then you need the water. And what happens is that the water will start to work its way down through there and be filtered through the rocks. The rocks will take out some things. The gravel will take out some things. The sand will remove some things. The charcoal will remove some things. And then the cloth will catch all of the residue and everything else that goes through, and then it drips into your clean water. This is how you just created groundwater. This is why some of the best water in the world, the best water that we have is groundwater. If you've never drinking well water, and for those of you have, you know the difference. You know the difference. And this is mineralized, but because of how short the water is there, it doesn't really get as much as the minerals. You can actually put some rocks inside of the bottom of the cup that you're going to be drinking out of. Put some clean rocks in there that will remineralize your water to put some minerals back in the water. Very, very effective, very, very important. You just created, for pennies on the dollar, really, you just created your own water filtration system, a gravity-fed water filtration system, and that's something that you need to have along with you. And you can build bigger ones from that, and we'll talk about that at another time. So hopefully you all learned something today. Let me check to see if we have any calls. Oh, we got a caller on queue. Didn't see this person. Roz, what's going on, man? Sorry about that. Go ahead.
No, it's no problem. You did an awesome job today. Thanks again for a brilliant show. I was going to say also for charcoal, for people who don't have fireplaces, you can actually buy charcoal like in pill form. They sell it like there's a brand called Nature's Way that I get. You can stock up on that. Also,
I didn't know that. Oh, man, that's good. Say that again. Say it again, Roz. What is it?
It's called Nature's Way. They sell it at like GNC and stuff, so you can stock up on that because also you can use it to help if you have problems with like gas, if you have indigestion, if there's any issue where you eat something that might be toxic, you can also use the charcoal to absorb that and flush it out of your system. Don't take charcoal if you're taking any sort of medication for illness because it'll absorb that medication and it'll basically do nothing. I was saying, too, I was going to say, I remember I brought this up before. I was watching a prepper show on Nat Geo, and this guy actually used a bandana and crushed up charcoal to take water from a fountain to actually filter water the same way. Also, you can use Mylar to do the same. If you dig a hole, you can line the hole with the Mylar, the same setup you discussed with the bottle. You can have it like basically you build a hole, and the Mylar, you form it in the form of a funnel almost, and it runs right into the bottle. So you can catch rainwater and filter the rainwater because we know that a lot of the rainwater is also contaminated, but you can also use your Mylar bags to do that as well. And also, Brother Davis had brought up shungite, which is a stone that they use for purification. You can actually create your own purified water using shungite. And it's SHUNGITE, and they sell it for very, very affordable prices on Amazon. You can get like 14 grams, a pound of it, and basically you can use that to filter your water. It's something that they use a lot in Russia and other parts of Europe that you can actually put the rocks in a bottle. Basically it's like a slow filtration system where the rocks basically absorb it. But shungite, you can also use that for the same purposes. So I just wanted to toss that out there. And say thanks again for a brilliant show, my brother.
Oh, man, my man, great information. Thanks for great information by you. And actually, right, Roz was rushing there because what Roz would have also told you that that digging and using the Mylar and using plastic and everything else is how you can create water. So even in the desert, actually, you can use the overall the environment of the desert to create water. You just have to know how to do it, and you just need to actually have. Yeah, it's condensation. You can create it you can create water from condensation, and there's also in extreme measures. For those of you that know what I mean, you can actually take your overall urine and create and take out the to actually make it into potable water by that actual process to where you just take out everything else and it's just water. So you'll be able to redo that. So many different ways in water, so critical to our overall, survivability, physical survivability. So, man, Roz, thank you so much, man. I wish I'd caught you a little bit earlier on there. I was on the I didn't see it, so my bad, brother. But as always,
I got you kind of late anyway, so no, you didn't miss me. So actually, you hit me maybe about 30 seconds to a minute after I actually hit star. So you're good. And thanks again for the opportunity, my.
Always, my man, and great information as always. So, all right, everyone, much love, much respect. Hey, Roz, give me a call when you can.
Okay, I'll give you a call shortly. Just give me maybe about 10 minutes.
Do your thing. Okay. All right, everyone, I just want to say thank you all for listening today. It's never goodbye. As always, we'll see you later. And before you ask for a fortune, make sure to give one away and prepare yourself. Hopefully there was something here, and then we'll come back to this because this is something that, and I think that Tuesdays is going to be the table of preparedness until further notice. So just so much. So you all start to grab some things and bring it to the table because I think it's better when we all share because that way it helps us in our overall being prepared. Much love, much respect. Thanks, Scotty. Thank you, Sister Davis. Thank you, Roz. Thank you, listeners, for who you are and what you do. It's never goodbye. As always, we'll see you later. Much love, much respect. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.